Ladies and gentlemen, it's wonderful being together out here again. As always, GSCS has been a leader in any department where we need support from the organizations. Today, the country is passing through pretty tough times. And rightly so, in these times, it was important that we come forward and do activities which are for the common good of the society. So here we are today, Kamna Shiba. She is head of Department of Mental Health at Fortis Healthcare. Folks, Kamna is a MPhil in clinical psychology, trained therapist, worked with children, adolescents, and adults as well. Passionate about working in the space of child adolescent mental health, relationships, trauma, abuse. She designs, creates programs for implementation in the schools, colleges, and NGOs. She is a writer also, prolific writer. She's authored books, and she features in on issues to do with mental health. The first book that she authored was "Let Him Not Sink." So beautiful. Let him not sink. So what to do when somebody is down as far mental aspects are concerned? She is covered beautifully in that. That was published by the Rupa Publications. It's a manual for adults who work with the children. So, see, we have young parents out here. So as the kids start growing up, those typical problems at the teenage stage, subsequent stage. So she's covered beautifully in that. Thereafter, then she's also written two do-it-yourself books, life skill books for children, and that was published by Macmillan. So you can see she got various publications, be it Rupa, be it Macmillan, and such like. She's written life skills for children, life skills for teenagers, and now she is in the process of writing A to Z for empathy. And that's going to be wonderful. Look forward to that, ma'am. A to Z of empathy. Today's time when we all have to come forward and look at the problems of others also. I think she's covered beautifully in that. How to be empathetic about the problems of others. She's covered 26 skills from A to Z in those in that booklet of that book of hers. She's also studied, co-created a comic series also, and that's beautiful. Laugh and learn with Dr. Parik. So all in all, we find that Kamna Shebar is a go-getter, a leader who's covered a vast domain as far as mental health is concerned. So rightly so that today's program, when the life is a little tough thanks to COVID, we have a leader like us to guide us through the events ahead. Over to you, Kamna Shebar, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Kanu Saab. Thank you, Jatin. It's a real pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for such a warm introduction. I feel rather embarrassed as you were reading through everything. Um, but I'm also very happy that this initiative is being taken. I think for many years, if you were to probably talk to if I were to say probably reach out to my grandparents at this stage and ask them that आपने कभी mental health के बारे में सुना है? Had you ever thought that there would be a psychologist or a psychiatrist which would be addressing audiences, corporates, and talking about mental health and well-being? I think that would have been a completely unheard of phenomena. And I think current situations have made it so evident that even when we are struggling with a physical health related condition that we're going through right now, which is represented by the pandemic and the various effects it is having on us, what is very critical is also to look at the mental health and well-being of every individual around us. What I'm going to try and do today is I'm going to speak briefly. I don't want to just keep on going on and on indefinitely. I'm going to try and talk about a little bit about what are we going through, what is it that it is doing to us in terms of our mental health and well-being, and what are some of the things or the areas that we can focus on to take care of our own selves. But I would request all of you to please share your questions in the chat box, because I think that will allow us to make it very interactive, and it would allow me to address specific areas which would be very relevant to you. And I think that's the purpose of this interaction today, which is to ensure that I'm being able to share with you inputs which would be relevant to your current lives. So as we all know, we're in absolutely unprecedented times. We have had no exposure or understanding of how do you come through a situation where people are going to be locked in their houses, 14 months going on now, where you've not stepped out, where you have not been able to, you may have had a couple of months of respite where you did step out for a little bit, but in such an altered format. The questions that are coming to everyone's minds: is this the new normal? Is this new normal going to change? Is there going to be a point in time when things are going to go back to what they used to be? Is this going to be the situation which is going to surround me for the rest of my life? Is this the life that I'm going to give to my children? Are they going to only be studying online? Are they only going to be having classes online? What about their skill development? What about their growth? Would they be able to learn how to navigate social situations? How are they going to solve problems, take decisions, negotiate with people? Because a lot of those are skills which you learn when you're playing on the playground, when you're going to a school, when you're interacting with the teachers, when you're interacting in large groups, and none of that is happening currently. What is it that is going to happen? When is it that this is going to relent? When is there going to be a situation when we will be able to resume the normalcy of our lives? And those are a lot of the questions which are preoccupying us. There is, of course, the concern around health, not just of our own selves, but of our family members, of our friends. We are inundated with information day in, day out, where you're just hearing about this person needs X thing, this person needs Y thing, someone needs oxygen, someone needs a bed, someone needs a medication. Constant bombardment of this is not there or that is not there. You're almost feeling like, what is happening to us at a systemic level? What is the society that we have created? We're being made to question the lives that we have created for our own selves, for our family members. What is the legacy that we're leaving behind for our children, that we will leave behind for our children? Is this the kind of environment and society that we want to create? So there are so many questions which keep on plaguing people's minds, and I think one of the biggest impacts that has happened currently is that we are all in a space where it is affecting the ways in which we think, the ways in which we feel, the ways in which we are responding to situations. I don't think there would be a single person who would be able to turn around and say that there has been no impact on me. Every individual would agree to the fact that there has been some sort of a shift that they have experienced. For a lot of people, what has happened is it's led to an increase in thinking. They feel they're nervous, they feel high strung, they feel they're constantly worrying, feeling unsure about what they need to do, how they need to do it. Thought processes keep running. Sometimes they're thinking about the past, sometimes they're worrying about the future. A lot of times they're not sure how things are going to pan out. A lot of increase in feeling anxious. For a lot of people, there has been a change in their moods. Some people feel low, some people feel very irritable. There is the feeling of anger as well to the situations that we are in right now, towards what is it that we are doing or how we've been doing things. There is also, for a lot of people, there is an experience of guilt, self-blame. Am I not being able to do enough? Will I be able to ensure that my family, my friends are safe? How do I ensure that things would be okay for everyone around me, the people that I love? All of those questions are coming in their mind, and there is a lot of emotional experience which is happening around it. The thoughts are getting affected. What does it do? It affects your appetite, it affects your sleep patterns, it affects the ways in which you are conducting your chores, your day-to-day routines. Makes you feel exhausted, fatigued. A lot of times you do not feel like you have the energy to be able to get up and even send that one email, which would probably have been the simplest task that you would ever do. And for a lot of people, that in itself is becoming a struggle. It becomes something which is very, very difficult for them to get through that day. For a lot of people, what they're also feeling is a lot of disconnectedness from people around them. Others' emotional states is almost making them feel very numb. A lot of times, people are not being able to necessarily connect to what is it that another person may be going through. You don't want to connect to those emotions also, because each time you do that, you yourself feel so drained and exhausted, completely burnt out, as though you're just not being able to cope with that situation, because you feel like you're almost living that situation again and again and again and again. And that is really having a significant impact on the mental health and well-being of everyone. For a lot of people, what is also happening right now is that they are feeling a lot of incapability or incompetence, that we are not being able to do enough. And I think that's also leading to a lot of guilt, a lot of self blame, and it's leading to a lot of distress which is being experienced, and moving forward is becoming difficult. We're not being able to grieve the loss of what has been around us. We're not being able to properly grieve the loss of people who are not there anymore. And that mourning process, that bereavement process is getting completely delayed for a lot of people right now. But Yes, there are a lot of things which are out of our control, but what is it that you can do to maintain that sense of well-being, that sense of mental health? I think the first thing that we need to start understanding is that somewhere it is okay and normal for us to feel the emotional states that we are going through. Typically, we run away from our emotions. We want to hide away from the things that we feel are bad. We don't want to acknowledge and accept and take responsibility or ownership of the fact that we are going through some of these emotional states, and we start labeling them as being very negative. I think that's the first thing that we need to start stopping. We have to start letting go of this hesitation and embracing the emotional experiences that we're having, and we need to refrain from labeling it as an illness, because currently, in these distressing times, if you're someone who's not feeling anxious, or if you're someone who's not going through your own fluctuations in mood states, then that may be something which would be more concerning than you experiencing it. So for you to feel what you're feeling is okay, but what is far more important is going to be, you need to start ensuring that you are trying to shift your focus, your thought process from the things which seem completely out of control to those that you can control. It is very easy for us to keep getting swayed in the direction of what happened to me in the past, or feel completely helpless and think about what may happen in the future and get preoccupied with those thoughts. What we need to do in some of these situations now is to keep on finding ways to ground ourselves in the reality today, in the present, in the here and now. You have to keep pulling yourself back from the past, from the future. Remind yourself of where you are, of what you are doing. Focus on that and keep on ensuring that you're being able to stay grounded in the moment, because that allows you to cope effectively. What is essential also is going to be to try and look at what can you control. What is in our control right now? We can't control the pandemic. We can't control the infection and how much time it will take for things to resolve. We may not all be in a position when we can help gather resources for people, but what we can do is we can take ownership of our own actions right now. That is perhaps going to be the biggest, the most important thing that we all need to do, which is to become socially responsible, which is to ensure that we are enacting COVID appropriate behavior today. Because it is each and every individual's responsibility to ensure that we take the right steps, the right safety measures, the right precautions to ensure that each and every individual is supporting the other individual. We have to look at the collective. We all need to come together right now so that collectively we can make the society come through this difficult phase. What is it that you can do today? You can ensure that you are there for the people who are around you. You may not be able to provide them resources, but you can certainly pick up the phone and give them a call. You can certainly drop them a message. You don't have to do something which you think is right. What you need to do is you need to figure out what does this person need and try to support them in that way. And then that again does not mean that you need to give them resources. You're just being there, telling them that you are available as a support system can go a long way in helping them mediate the distress that they're experiencing. That is something which is very, very critical. What is also very critical right now is that we all speak, we all share. As you're going through difficult emotional experiences, it is very important to start sharing those with people around us. As a society, we've always looked at holding on to what is happening to us. Things which are bad, we dissociate ourselves from that. Now is not the time to do that. Now is the time to unmute yourself, talk, share, express. There are various people around us who will be able to support you. Friends can step in, family members can step in, colleagues can step in. If you feel that there are no people around you who can support you in that way, there are helplines which you can reach out to. We at Fortis run a 24/7 helpline, which is available in 15 national languages. And I do believe that it is important to utilize all of these services, because each and every person who is going through difficult moments right now does not need intervention of experts. What they do need is they need to know that there are people around them who will step in when they are going through some emotional distress. Very, very few people require mental health intervention from experts. If you are taking steps initially, ensuring that you have the right support systems, ensuring that you are being the right support system, people will be able to cope with situations in a far better way. What we do need is right now to weave stories of hope and positivity. I know right now when I even say these words, it almost sounds like, where is the positivity? I think that's the first question that pops up in your mind. Especially when I work in mainstream healthcare. Yes, There is a lot of distressing news and information which is out there, and it keeps on making us feel very overwhelmed. But at the same time, there are enough situations which are there where people have stepped up and they have been able to support others around them and done very many good deeds. All of those stories need to be celebrated, because that's what allows a society to cope. That's what allows us to be able to go through crisis. That is something which is the most essential element that we each needs to focus on. When you go back to your homes, well, currently you don't go back, currently you stay in your home. When you are sitting in your home, you see that your partner is upset. You go and you ask that partner what's going on. You share with them a small little joke which you may have read somewhere that brings a smile to that person's face. That's your moment of joy. That's your positive deed for the day. And that's what we need to focus on. Each and every one of us needs to find it within our own selves to be able to support the other person, whether it's inside your house, whether it's outside your house. If you have neighbors around you who are struggling with the illness, find ways in which you can help them. Again, does not have to be big steps, can be any small thing which you can do. And I think finally what's also very important is the information overload that we are all going through. I think what's very important is that we need to start also propagating messages which are positive and which give hope. There is a lot right now which goes on around media, on social media, which can involve trolling, which involves blame. Despite everything that we are going through right now, we find that minute to be able to tweet something or to post something which is going to pull someone down. I think that is the one thing that we all need to refrain from right now, because that could be the one positive thing that you may do, which is to ensure that you are not contributing to the negative diatribe which is there outside. And that's something which is very, very critical, because again, it is each of our individual responsibility to make sure that we are contributing to the positive narrative which is out there. And that's the way in which societies and people can come together to restore mental health, to ensure there is well-being, to ensure that when we come out of this pandemic, there are going to be least number of cases of depression and anxiety disorders and PTSD and trauma. How you will do that is through these mechanisms which we can each enact today. And we need to ensure that we are taking some of these steps and measures to be able to come out of this in a very, very positive manner. What I'm going to do now, I'm not going to keep on speaking indefinitely. I'm going to start taking some of the questions. There are already 3-4 that we do have. For anyone who may be hesitant in sharing them publicly, you can send it to me privately as well, the question. So starting with the first one, how do you talk to people and help them at the same time, keep mental peace and disconnect when you are alone? So 2 parts to this question. How do you talk to people and help them? I think currently what's most important is we feel, and we have always felt, that when you need to help someone, it involves actually physically doing something for them. I think that thought process needs to start shifting in our mind. It's very, very critical to understand that currently help is not about going and standing next to someone physically. Currently help is not about getting them, giving them food or giving them medications around. Currently help at this moment is about letting them know that you are going to be there. Come what may, you're going to be that one support system who is going to be there to talk to them, to hear them out, to share with them whenever they think they are in a position that they would like to talk to you. A lot of times we become very forceful and pushy in trying to tell the other person that no, you must talk to me because you're going through something difficult. I think it's important to figure out, what does this person need? Do they need to talk to me right now, or do they just want me to send a text to them? Do they just need an emoji right now which shows them that okay, I care, I'm here? Do they need me to talk to their children? Do they need me to talk to their doctors? What is it that this person needs? That is something that you need to try and identify. I think what's also important is that we don't have answers, and we need to accept that part, that we will not have answers for people. You may feel that they need to know that everything will be okay, and that if you would say that it would restore some hopefulness for them. I don't think that's the right way today. Today, the right way forward is going to be that if I have a person who is struggling and they are going through difficult times right now because family members are not doing well, we don't know how things are going to transpire. What you remind them in that moment is that we are doing everything that we possibly can. We are putting all our efforts here. Let's maintain our hope. Let's wish for the best over here. Let's keep taking our steps forward. and we will get through this together. Whatever the outcome may be, let's not get preoccupied with that. Let's just keep doing the work that we need to do over here to help the family, to make sure the right decisions and choices are being made, and we look at the outcome later on. I think that's the narrative that needs to be shared with people, so that there is a reality orientation and yet there is support which is being provided. The second part of the question talks about how do you maintain mental peace when you are alone. I think for mental peace, what's important is that you also need to start focusing on ensuring that besides exposing yourself to so much information about what's going bad, what's going wrong, how are things transpiring, it's also important to start turning towards those activities, those things which make you feel a sense of contentment and relaxation. A lot of people turn towards us and say that, when so many people are struggling around us, how can we engage in this kind of activity? How can we be listening to music or watching a show when I know that my friend is sitting over there worried or is in isolation or quarantine? And the one thing I turn around and tell them all is that if you need to be a good support system to any person, you have to be fine. To keep yourself fine, you have to indulge in some of these activities. Even if you can take out only 5 minutes, you must ensure that you're taking care of your physical health, your diet, your nutrition, your exercise. Make sure you're getting adequate sleep. Find those small joyful moments. Identify where is it that your thoughts tend to go on to the negative side. Try to reframe those thoughts, because you can certainly do that, and that would be very, very helpful to you. It's something which is very critical and allows you to be able to take care of yourself. And at the same time, learn to switch off. There is no judgment, there is no comparison. Not everyone needs to be on social media, not everyone needs to be running around finding resources. What we also need to do is figure out what is it that is optimally good for you. And if there are times when you need to switch off, there are times when you need to do a digital detox, do that. Turn back to the music, turn back to the reading, turn back to the art, the activities that you love. Go ahead and do that, because that will allow you to be able to take care of your own self, which is very important, so that you can be the right caregiver at the time when that need arises for people around you. Another question we have is how to come out of the feeling of helplessness. It's dominant across a lot of professionals around the country. I agree. I think there is also a helplessness about the helplessness in a way. It's very hard for us to not feel that we are not being able to do enough or as much as we would like to. I think somewhere it is reminding us of the limitations that we have as individuals, as people who have access to resources, we may feel, and have always perhaps lived our lives in a certain way, contributing actively towards the lives of others and doing things for them in a very, very proactive manner. And right now, when we find ourselves in this situation where, despite having the intent and the willingness and the willfulness to extend ourselves, to find ways to support others, and we're not being able to do that, I think it's absolutely frustrating and makes us feel very helpless. But I think therein also lies a solution. What you have to focus on is the fact that you are willing to do something. It's not that you are not helping someone because you don't want to. It's just that we are in a situation right now where we are not being able to, and somewhere accepting the reality of the limitations that situations are posing upon us is very, very crucial. You may feel that you are not doing something which is enough, but honestly speaking, I think right now, if you would turn around and ask the people around you who are being supported by you, they would be very grateful and would have immense gratitude for whatever small things you are being able to help them, even if it is to just check in on them on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. It's about reminding them for the things that they need to do. Or even if it is you just being a very patient person, especially if you are, say, for instance, working with this individual and you're able to give them the time and the space to take care of their home responsibilities, and they're being able to manage things, even though there may be delays from their end for things. Um, you would be providing them a lot of support, which you may not feel is adequate, but actually would be helping them. And that's how you deal with that helplessness. You focus on the things that you can do, you focus on the things that you can control. That's what works best in such situations. Um, Someone has asked, can we adopt kids, those who have lost their parents? Shall a person plan a family, as I'm seeing so many women and kids are going through so much? I think this is a very individual choice that we need to make. um, I think yes, a lot of children have lost their parents during this period of time. There are lots of reports which have started to come in now, especially where people are talking about and sharing how many kids have been orphaned during this point in time. If you are someone who can and who wants to adopt a child, of course you should go ahead and do it. It's something that you and your partner need to be aligned upon. It's a choice that the two of you need to make, and it's something that you need to remember is a long-term commitment. And if you feel you have the resources, the intent, the willingness to do this, you must go ahead with it. Should we plan families? I think again that's something which is an individual choice. You can plan a family and yet you can adopt. You can already have a family and yet you can still adopt. Those are decisions which I think as individuals we will have to start making. It's important that we do find a way to be able to support these young kids who are also suffering on account of the loss of their family members. And if we can do something, we absolutely must. There would be something that would be very, very great in doing that. The next question that we do have is, how do you console someone fighting and on the verge of losing the battle with COVID? A very difficult one. I think what you try and do in those moments is you just try to remind them of some of the good memories. I think that's what would help in that moment, because there is nothing that you can say or do that would allow you to feel that you have done enough for this individual in that moment, which would allow them to come to terms with the situation that they're facing. I don't think that there is anything which prepares us for are not being there anymore. I think that is something which is very, very hard, and it's something that an individual goes through in their own time, especially when you're looking at young people. I think what's most important in that moment is to try and recollect, share with them those memories if you are in a position to do so. It's also about giving them the confidence and the solace that you would be there as a support system for the rest of their family if you are certain that there is something, there is going to be a negative outcome, because I think that would be helpful to this individual. And you try and reassure them that you will try to make whatever comfort is possible available for them in this particular moment of their life as they're coping with this, coming to terms with this reality that they are facing. There is not much else that you can do, but you also make yourself available to the rest of their family. So if they have a partner, if they have children, if they have parents, if they have any other relatives who they are close to, you go and stand by them and you make them aware of your presence, your availability, and that helps. That is something which is very important. Another question that we have is, how important is the role that our gut plays to keep oneself in a happy, energetic mood, to keep immunity high, to fight the infection, or to recover from COVID? Um, that's a medical question. I am not sure that I would be equipped to answer that. But in general, I do feel that building your immunity is always good. Whether it will help you in fighting COVID specifically or not the right person to answer. Is it important to put yourself in a good mood, stay energetic? Yes, of course, always is. Because especially when you're looking at coping with stressors, maintaining your moods, maintaining your mental state is something which is very important. To keep fighting a stressor, to keep working through your thoughts, your feelings, it's important to ensure that you are taking care of your own self, your moods, your energy levels, and which is why we always keep reinforcing that it's important to keep turning towards activities, things that make you happy, which bring you joy, which allow you to unwind, to relax. Those are very, very critical, and it's very essential that you practice these activities on a regular basis. You practice things like meditation, yoga, exercise on a regular basis, because it does help in ensuring that you are in a better mental space and you're able to cope with things more effectively. So someone has asked, what questions can we ask someone who we want to assist or check upon without being too intrusive? I think the best way to be able to do that is to make this person aware that you are available. I think currently, because of the effect that the illness is having, we know a lot of people are having very severe symptoms. It makes them very fatigued. It makes it very difficult for them to stay connected over the phone or to keep having repeated conversations. Probably the best way to communicate that you are available is to drop texts regularly, and simultaneously point out that there is no expectation from your side to hear a response from them, but to let them know that you are available, that if they require any assistance, you would be there to help them in the best way that you potentially can. I think you need to keep it simple, and you need to keep it forthright, so that it's something that the person can easily respond to. I also feel that it may actually be a good idea to stay connected with the extended family of this person, whoever it is that is going through the illness, because family members will be maybe far more aware of what may be needed in that moment. um, I've heard of a lot of situations currently where you know parents, so for instance, one parent is not doing well because of the illness, the other parent is busy in trying to take care of ensuring all arrangements, everything is available, whether it's medications, whether it's money being paid at the hospital, everything, and children are at home and they feel very lost. So if you can even make yourself available to the children in those situations, it would be very, very helpful. If you could take out time to give a call or do a video interaction with children, I think that's something which would be very helpful in that moment, and would also be reassuring to this person who is struggling with the illness, to know that there are people around who would step in and help their family cope as well in that situation. So that's something which I think could be very helpful as well. We have another question, which is about how do you get over the negativity that is spread around every now and then? I think two parts to that. One, you need to ensure that you are also not contributing towards that negativity. I feel that it's very important for us to individually take on responsibility for what is going on and how things are. Like I was sharing during when I was speaking earlier as well, that it's very important that if you are someone who's, say on social media, be conscious of what you're putting out there yourself. Become more aware of what is the information that you're sharing. Ensure that you do not pass on messages which create panic. Ensure that you do not pass on messages which may not be from verified sources. Ensure that you are not the person who is indulging in blaming people, looking at trolling, looking at saying something which is going to impact other people negatively. And there have been ample instances, even during these really difficult times, where a lot of people have experienced trolling and negativity being directed at them on different social media platforms. So I think that's something which is very important. At the same time, I feel that we need to become very consciously aware of what and how much media we are consuming. There is a lot of information which comes our way. We are in the digital age right now. There is no controlling the kind of information that keeps on coming our way. We need to become more conscious consumers of that information. I think it's very critical that we start making more proactive choices about what media platforms we go on to. Where is it that we source our information? We are so in the habit of simply forwarding videos, forwarding messages. We don't even check the veracity of the claims of those particular informational nuggets which are coming our way. And that makes it really, really difficult. And so it's very important that you start becoming more aware of that. If you need to start switching off, I would suggest please switch off. You can put a control over how much information you view or how much news you view. Remember, there is no judgment on that. You don't need to compare yourself to how does my other colleague do this, how is my other family member doing that. It makes no difference. You are allowed to make your own choice about how much information you want to consume. That is something which is very, very essential. We have another question, which is, work from home is not easy and exciting, but there is no option right now. Unless schools open up, things get back to normal, and we start going back, there is no sense of office time or personal time. Feeling of not doing justice looms large, and there's the despair. I've begun penning down the smallest actions I take or complete to get a sense of fulfillment at the end of the day. Is there anything else that we can do? I absolutely agree. I think there has been this blurring of boundaries which has happened, and you're wearing multiple hats at the same time, and you have to keep on swapping those multiple hats. You may be the boss in one moment, and then you need to become the colleague in the next moment, and then you need to be the parent in the next, and then you need to become the cook sometimes, and then you go back to your work again, and you're having to wear these multiple hats in a short span of time, something that we are just not used to. And even though we may have been doing this for the last 14 months now, it doesn't mean that we have adapted to it. It doesn't mean that it has become any easier. And it's not just about the schools opening up. I think right now we need to also understand that if we are not making this choice of working from home, staying indoors, staying safe, following all COVID appropriate behavior, this pandemic will not pass. And for us to be able to come out of this, this is going to be perhaps one of the smallest sacrifices we would have made in ensuring that we're able to come out of this in a good manner. I think what you said, which is to say that at the end of the day, you do note down the smallest actions that you have taken, which to get a sense of fulfillment is helpful. That is absolutely right. That does end up being very helpful. But what is also important, I feel, is to start drawing boundaries if you haven't already been doing that. I think it's very critical to be able to start sharing with family members, especially since we're all working from home. When is it that you're available to speak? What is the time when they can come in and disturb you? What is the time, when, say for instance, your colleague should not be disturbing you because you are taking a break? Somewhere it falls upon us to be able to draw those boundaries. Because we are working from home, we do not draw that line to say that, what, my work ends at 7 or my work ends at 6 or 8 or 9, whatever were your work hours previously. We have to take responsibility to follow those routines and schedules. That's in our hands. And if we don't make that active effort to do it, no one else is going to respect those things either. I think it's also very important at the same time, besides looking at what you may have accomplished at the end of the day, to find a way to be able to do the things that you enjoy. I know I keep saying this again and again. I probably am saying this for the third or the fourth time, but I do truly believe that this is also a time where we can find a way to be creative, to find moments, time to do the things that we've always loved but never had the time for. And we've always complained that, okay, between the traffic and the work and the home responsibilities, I don't have time to do things. That's something which we all need to, we have the opportunity right now to be able to do a lot of different things, and we must make the most of it. I think it's also very critical right now, especially if you have children at home, to spend time with them, derive your joy from them. Children are the most resilient. Children are the ones who find happiness and joy in the most difficult of circumstances. Draw your inspiration from them, because they will be able to help you and guide you and make sure that you're having fun with them. Play games with them. In fact, even if you don't have children, why not play games yourself? Make puzzles if you're alone at home. Make sure that you are playing a game of Ludo. Go back to those old days. Take out a carom board. Do anything that you potentially can, at least to be able to spend some time in a good way as well, even though we may be inundated with information which is negative, times which are bad and difficult. It's important for us to be able to do these things to ensure that we tend to stay fine. That is something which is very, very critical. Another question that we have is about food and nutrients which help as stress busters, sound sleep, healthy mental condition. I think what's important right now during this pandemic is to have food that gives you joy, to ensure that you're eating things that make you happy. Because right now, it's very essential that we do the things that we love. If you like to cook, please cook. If you like to cook things which are fancy, which may be greasy, which may be giving you a lot more calories, please go ahead and do that once in a while. Of course, balance it out, do some exercise as well. That's of course very, very critical. No doubt about that. I think right now what is also important is sleep is very critical. And what is important for your sleep is that you need to create a routine. For a lot of people that I work with currently, what does end up happening, even when we're doing a lot of other workshops, people talk about the fact that, their sleep cycles have changed. So you're sleeping very late, You need to still get up at a certain time. You don't feel rested. It impacts your productivity. You're not feeling as effective at work. You become snappy at home. You end up saying something nasty to a colleague or a coworker. You snap at people. That's not helpful at all. What you have to start doing is you need to start fixing your time to switch off. You have to start switching off from your gadgets. It's something which is very critical. We may feel that the world will collapse if I switch off my phone, but honestly speaking, nothing that bad ever happens. I switch off my phone at a certain time because I know that there can be no situation where if I am not available, something that bad could potentially happen. We have to learn to take that step back and prioritize our health and well-being. That's something which is very critical. So if you want to sleep by 11, you need to make sure that you switch off your gadgets by at least 10, if not 9. If you want to sleep by 11, you also need to make sure that once you've switched off your gadgets, you're not sitting and watching some show which is going to end up stimulating your mind. What you need to do is engage in an activity which is going to start calming the activity level in the brain. And for that, what you need to do is maybe read, maybe listen to some light music, classical, instrumental, anything which is going to calm down the activity and the stimulation levels in the brain. It's only then that you would be able to start going off to sleep early. Do a warm water, body temperature raising bath. Try and have something like a chamomile tea. If you're okay with milk, then a glass of warm milk. These are things which tend to be helpful, and getting the right quantity of sleep is very, very crucial. You need to ensure that you end up getting at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep, which is good quality sleep where you are sleeping restfully. That will ensure that your next day also goes well and you're coping with situations in a better way as well. You're refreshed, your brain is active enough, and you're being able to do things in the best way. We have another question, which is summer vacations are meant for children to stay at home and not for parents to stay at home and attend office. So no way is it going to be easy to explain to them that dad's in office and needs silence around. Children themselves are stressed out because they're not able to go out to play. And also letting children stay glued on the mobile TV whilst we are busy is such a bad habit we are inculcating in them. How do you empathize with young children in such situations? So my honest opinion and the opinion of a lot of mental health experts currently is if your children are having slightly increased screen time, please stop panicking about it. You need to find a way in which that screen time can be utilized more effectively. So one of the things which one of my colleagues' child does is she does a history lesson with her grandparents every day in the morning and a science lesson with her grandparents every day in the evening, where she teaches the grandparents. It's not the grandparents teaching her. Children also find their own unique ways in which they can keep themselves busy and happy. A lot of times what happens is that as parents, we become rigid in our own minds about what we think children need to do. We set a lot of rules. We set a lot of boundaries around is time pe ye hona hai, this is the time for this activity, this is the time for that activity. And children, unfortunately, they may do it once, twice, a few days continuously, but then they get restless. That's their spirit, that's their natural temperament. So we have to be able to respect that. A good way is to oftentimes ask children, especially if they are young children, about what would they like to do within the house. You can give them a list of chores. You can ask them what they would like to do. You give them a task, you give them rewards, or you give them stars on their charts. That works very well. Right now is a time where we need to understand that every individual is coping in their own way. You're absolutely right that children, they also get bored and restless at home, but right now every child is also understanding that this is not a situation that is happening to them alone. This is a situation which is happening to every child. It's not that they are at one child is at home and the rest of the children are out there on the playground. Everyone is inside. They also understand that we're in the midst of a pandemic. Every child knows that there is a virus out there which is affecting people's health and well-being. They also don't want to go out there necessarily. They may come up with it, but they understand that it may not be the best thing. So what behavior you model and how you answer and respond to their questions will be critical in how well they're adapting. And children are very, very resilient. They take their cues from you. So you need to be calm, you need to be relaxed. If you're feeling overwhelmed by a situation, take a step back, come back and talk to your child about it. It will work out. That's something which is very important. Sorry. How do you keep bad news from getting you down? I don't think we can buttress ourselves from the impact of things which are not going well. I think it would be false for me to say that you can ensure that you don't feel sad, you don't feel bad when there is a lot of bad which is happening around you. That's not possible. It's a normal human response to a difficult situation. Even when you go through a regular situation, which is a stressful situation previously, you would ensure that you would end up experiencing a lot of thoughts, anxiety, nervousness, sometimes feel overwhelmed, sometimes feel depressed, low, sad. We go through a lot of emotional states, and that's okay. Right now we're going through this huge pandemic which is affecting us in multiple ways, at multiple levels, and it is very important for us to recognize, accept, and understand that there is going to be tremendous emotional impact on us. And which is why, when I started talking about what you can do, the first thing I shared with you would be to accept the emotions that you're going through. We can't deny them. We can't run away from them. We should not deny or run away from them, because you can't run away from the reality of the life that we are in currently. We have to learn from these experiences. We need to learn, most importantly right now, how is it that we can come together and support each other. I think that's the most crucial aspect. How you ensure the bad news does not keep getting you down. You look around also for stories of hope and resilience. You look around and you find that there are also people who are getting better during this pandemic. You look around and you see that there are people, there are children around you who are also being able to enjoy moments. That is what makes us feel better. That is what gives us a lot of hopefulness as well. We search for the right kind of stimulus for us. It will be able to help you cope better. But it is okay for you to feel low. It's okay for you to feel anxious. You will go through the grief process. You will take time to accept the loss of people around you, of the time that we have lost. And that's okay. We must go through it. We can't deny that. How to engage kids aged 2.5 years? Most of the time, we have to engage with cartoons, poems on TV, and mobile. That works very well. Right now, whatever it is that you can do to keep them engaged, whether it's virtually on different platforms using gadgets, you do that. If you have the time and you can actively sit down with them and you can involve them in certain chores that you may be doing, that could be helpful. So a simple thing that you could also do is, if this is if your child takes instructions and is willing to help you out while you're, say for instance, doing something in the kitchen, you can give them a spoon and tell them, go put the spoon on the table. It's not much, it's not big, it's not going to be helpful to you, but the child feels engaged and they feel okay in that moment. I think if you also have other adults in the household, it's helpful to keep having more and more conversations with the child. It helps them also start developing their lateral thought process. That's something which is helpful. It helps them build their social skills. Having those interactions is very, very essential. That's what you keep doing with them. What will be the impact on the mind of children who are not allowed to go outside? We don't know, and hopefully not much of an impact, because you are all there in the houses who are having conversations with your children, who are giving them the kind of exposure that you potentially can some kids end up having a struggle in reintegrating themselves into social networks? Yes, it is possible. Would it necessarily mean that it's going to impede their growth and development in the long run? No, the answer is no to that. What you need to ensure when the times come back, when we will be able to start stepping out in a more comfortable manner, is that uh, you grade things according to a child's comfort. You allow them to make certain choices about what kind of groups and settings they would like to start stepping into. And you utilize that understanding to ensure that you're able to give the right kind of exposure to your child. That would be the best way forward. I don't feel that it is necessary, whether it's children or adults, for us to believe that there is necessarily going to be a sudden spiking in any kind of a mental health condition, especially if we are being more cognizant of supporting each other and reaching out for support, talking about our emotional experiences, making sure that we're there for each other. I have a feeling that we can mediate a lot of mental health related outcomes through these simple actions as well. It's very important for us to step up into this space right now and do some of these things. Do I think isolation will impact childhood development? I don't think children are isolated. They are with their parents, their primary caregivers. They are currently in a home where they may have siblings, or where they may have grandparents. If they don't have grandparents over there, they're doing a lot of video calls with them. there is enough interaction which a child will be able to go through, which will allow skill development to still continue happening. I think probably the biggest concern may be that you may not be able to give them the kind of structured academic development the way we are used to. And right now that's okay. Right now that really does not matter, but there are going to be ways in which you can ensure that your child is otherwise gaining a lot of experiences even within the home, whether it's through games, whether it is through interacting with you, whether it is by just sitting on the kitchen counter as you're preparing some food, or whether it is to just be around you while you're sitting working in your office space and your child is over there and they're doing their own coloring or writing or something. That works. That is also something that enables a child's development. Every time that a child is coming to you and they're asking questions, and if you're choosing to respond to those questions without getting too irritated because you have so much going on as well, that allows the child to experience the development that they do need. And like I said, children are very resilient. They are able to cope with difficulties in a very good way. They will take their cues from you. And if you are able to ensure that you are not being overly reactive or getting too distressed in front of them, and you're able to manage those responses, or even if you ended up having a breakdown in front of your child and you go back and talk to the child, they would be fine. A few months ago, when things had started opening up within the country, children were fine. They even resumed going back to school. A few months down the line, when we will be back in that same situation, we would again be okay. The next question that we have is about children in 10th and 11th who are not being able to concentrate and study and staying isolated, which is affecting their education. Don't you think it will affect their future as the crucial time of their life is affected? Not necessarily, because the crucial time is getting impacted for each and every child. My concern would be if this was a handful of children whose education was getting impeded and the rest of the world was moving forward. Currently, we're in a situation where the pandemic is happening pan the world. It's not something which is just happening to a select group of children right now. So that is something which is important. I think what is also very essential to keep in mind is that children are far more aware of the impact this can potentially have on their future lives. We work with a lot of children in schools, colleges, and in all the interactions that we end up having, trust me, most children are far more concerned than their parents are about how they need to ensure that they're able to navigate situations in the best way right now to make sure that the future does not get compromised, that they're able to get admissions in the right college, that they're able to move forward in the best way in their lives as well. They are also equally concerned about them because they do understand the relevance of this right now. And this is particularly true for students who are in the 12th grade. But right now, what is our role? As parents, our role is to give them comfort, to give them confidence, to remind them that whatever the outcomes and situations may be, we are here, we'll figure out a solution. I think that's very, very crucial. Instead of us feeling that their education may get impacted or they would get impacted, what's important is to keep reinforcing to them the right approach which is needed, which is to keep ensuring that they are putting in efforts from their side, even though it may be difficult and it may be a struggle, helping them find flexible ways of studying, helping them find ways in which they can concentrate, ensuring that they have the right support systems and guidance available to be able to grasp their academic information in the best way. That's what we can do, and we keep ourselves available to them. We keep reminding them that we're there to support, we're there to talk if they are struggling with anything, and they must reach out to you if, say, for instance, they are not sure about how to understand some information or how they need to take care of their own self. I think that's something which is very, very critical right now, and which would be helpful to most children, whether they're in the 10th or the 12th or any other grade at the moment. Okay, we seem to have come to the end of our questions. If anyone else has any question, you can please share that in the chat. Okay, well, thank you so much. I think I think I've answered all the questions. Thank you so much for having me here today. And it's been a pleasure to share thoughts and views on this very, very important topic. And I think the one thing that I would like to say in the end right now would be that together we all must, because together we can. find a way to come through this pandemic and take care of our mental health and well-being. Become that important support system to each other. Take those steps to be empathetic. Take the steps to be altruistic, because a pandemic is something that you overcome not by focusing on the individual, but by focusing on the collective. It's very important for us to remember this aspect. And that's how you ensure that the mental health of the community at large is restored and keeps on moving forward in the best way.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Kamna. I think some of the points are well noted. I've, in fact, show this to my daughter as well while you're saying it, and it really helped. Quite encouraging. Thank you so much. I would just request Captain Rajesh, who's from the GACS governing board, just to say a few words, please, before we end this. Thank you. Over to you, Captain.
Thank you so much, Jatin. It's very tough to conclude these sort of sessions. Dr. Kamna, thank you so much. I think it was pretty interesting because, like we said, there is nothing right or wrong. A lot of things which we hear are somewhere there near our minds, but somehow we don't use our minds to that extent, and we really get confused when we look at these sort of situations. So I think whatever you spoke about, as basic as we should try and find out ways ourselves to keep others happy and to see how really we can help others, I think that's a very powerful statement. Very simply, very straightforward put across, but I think something as basic as what you said is what is missing these days. And you're absolutely right. We all think probably we have become the reporters in social media. We rather, unfortunately, misuse social media to the best of the possible or the worst of the possible ways. Anything coming in forwarding to people without realizing how this will impact when readers will look at that message, they are in what sort of a mind frame. Unfortunately, we don't even look at that. We keep communicating to our members that, guys, it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour for you to verify your data, then share with people, because they are already struggling. They need data which is really useful at that point in time, but unfortunately, I don't know for what reasons people as in we all make those mistakes of just forwarding it. So social media, again, you touched upon, I think, is very, very valid, and these days we all are struggling with that. I think, like you said, and I firmly believe, and it's not about, guys, at this point in time, people need to have the best people. They need to have the right people with them. And everyone can be right when it comes to helping others. I think that's how I've understood whatever Dr. Kamna said. But again, I think the way you explained everything, the way you responded to the questions, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. We would definitely love to have you again if possible. And I'm not sure of the time frame. The whole idea is for us to really go back to our community and basically tell them that, guys, we have someone who can really help you guys to get out of this whole mental frame. And I think as today's session, I think you did an absolutely fantastic job, because when I logged into the call, I was not sure myself that this is going to be around what all. So there was a general idea, but I think after an hour or so, I'm convinced, I'm pretty positive now. There are a few mistakes which even I am making, and I'm sure we all are making. So I think I'll make sure that now onwards we don't repeat these mistakes. I think that's all what I can say. So that's it, guys. On that note, and thank you so much, all the members. It was very lively session. I could see questions after questions coming. Even now, questions are coming in. But since we have a limitation of time, what we'll do is we'll definitely direct your questions to Dr. Kamna, and whatever best responses we'll get, maybe directly or through the secretariat, you'll definitely hear them. But like I said, since these are very, very useful sessions, if at all there is a need, we'll make sure we'll request her again for some time, and we'll fix up another time. So on that note, I'm done. Thank you so much. Over to you, Jatin.
Thank you so much, Captain. This comes to an end of this session. We thank you again, all the participants, for joining and encouraging us to come with more sessions like this. And once again, Dr. Kamna, thank you so much for your time today. We would love to have more sessions like this, and we'll definitely look forward to it. So we are signing off now. Thank you so much. Please अपना ध्यान रखिए, अपने परिवार का ध्यान रखिए. Be safe. Thank you all. Thank you.